Well, hello, and a very warm welcome back to the Andrew Eborn Show. I'm delighted to be joined by financial journalist and founder of MoneyMagpie.com, Jasmine Birtles. How are you, Jasmine?
Good, thank you. Hello, lovely to be here.
It's lovely to do this. And what I love about this section of the show, this is where we unpack all the jargon and tell people how to make lots and lots of money. They read about all those sort of things. And I thought we'd start off by talking about gold. And people
Mm.
always talk about markets are very volatile at the moment and so on and so forth because of all sorts of factors. Tell me about how people can invest in gold.
Yes, gold is really interesting. I never used to be interested in it until the last few years when I've been questioning fiat currency. And that's really particularly because I got interested in cryptocurrency. And when you get interested in cryptocurrency, you start to see the difference between crypto and what we call fiat currency. And as fiat means a declaration, and basically the currency that we use, the pounds, the dollars, the euros, those are all called fiat currencies because frankly there's nothing much backing them. They are what our governments, our central banks say they are. They go, that's a pound, and we go, oh, all right then. Um, essentially. Now, back in the 70s, as you know, President Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. So, in other words, there was nothing other than the economy, the business of the country to back the currency. We'd taken the pound off the gold standard sometime before that. So that has meant that various governments in various countries have been able to just print money and print money and print money. And of course, the more money you print, the more money that's in circulation, the less value it has. Because even if you sort of accept as the concept is that your money is backed by the economy, if you just keep creating more, it's going to have each pound or dollar or whatever is going to have less value. So what that has meant, and we've seen it really strongly in the last 5 years or so, particularly, is that gold, when you look at it from the point of view of fiat currency, in other words, the value of it next to fiat currency, gold has actually just gone up and up. And it isn't, in all honesty, it isn't really that gold in itself has gone up in price. It's that the currency that we're valuing it in has come down.
Right.
And just in the last few days, we've seen yet another all-time high for the price of gold, which is great if you've got gold. But what it means is that fiat currencies, pounds, dollars, euros, have gone down in value even more in real terms. So, it's good and it's bad at the same time.
Right.
So, would you like me to talk about how to invest in
Oh no,
gold?
I think absolutely. If we unpack, because lots of people hear about this, and obviously you're not having these big bars under your bed where you keep it and sell those accordingly. So it's trying to look at that sort of principle. So people hear all of this. They're talking about gold being a sort of safe way of investing. How do people actually go about it?
Well, I would say there are two or three main ways that you can do it. And interestingly, and I'm just going to blow my own trumpet here, I actually have a free webinar coming up on the 17th of October, where we're going to talk exactly about this, the various different ways and the pros and cons of investing in gold. So I would say the first way, obviously enough, is to buy the actual physical stuff. And you can do this in two main ways. You can either buy coins, sovereigns as they're called, which is a really good way of doing it, by the way, because you don't have capital gains tax and you also don't have VAT because sovereigns, although one sovereign is worth, I think it's about 500 quid or something, it is considered legal tender,
Right.
which is quite, of course, you never would use it,
Well, people have problems trying to get 50 quid or 20 quid, try and give cash to
Yes,
anybody. You go in with a sovereign,
exactly.
that'll be worth it. Yeah.
Sovereign. It's crazy. Or you can, as you say, literally buy bars. And there are various places. I mean, the Royal Mint is an obvious one. And as gold has got more and more expensive, the sort of size of bars that you can buy there has gone smaller until, you've got little tiny ones that you can get because it's so expensive. So you can literally buy. In fact, you can do it online. As I say, the Royal Mint, or there are various companies that will do it, and they will send it to you via a courier. And then it's up to you what you do with it. Do you put it in your biscuit tin in the kitchen, or you can put it, in a bank vault, whatever. That's, I would say that's the downside. You have it and then you somehow you have to hide it, kind of thing. But you can also buy digital gold. There are companies like Bullion Vault, and there's a company called Tally Money, which actually is a credit card, even, and a savings account, which is all based in gold. So there are various sort of online gold buying and storing companies. So you buy it, but you never see it, and you don't have that worry of where to put it. But they do charge a monthly charge to do it. And then you've got what are called ETFs, exchange traded funds, which are the stock market funds basically. And you can get ETFs that just track the gold price. That's all it does. And ETFs are nice and cheap. You have to be very careful that they really are doing what they say, that they really do have the gold that they say they have. But that's quite a nice way. And then finally, from a stock market point of view, you could even consider investing in gold mining companies.
Right.
Again, you've got all the ups and downs of the stock market and the worries and whatever, but gold mining companies, and not just gold mining, of course, silver. I mean, I haven't even mentioned silver and platinum, all these other money metals. I think going forward, they are going to continue to go up, I consider. And so the mining companies are going to should on the whole do well. I mean, there are all sorts of other factors, but at least when it comes to the demand, that should be pretty positive for them.
Sure. And so having bought your gold and you suddenly see where it's got spiked in value, it's gone up tremendously, you want to cash it in. How would you do that?
Well, same way. Again, you can sell your gold to various, the company that sold it to you in the first place. As I say, the Royal Mint will buy it back. All sorts of companies. It is a rather, as we say, a nice liquid product. It's lovely and easy to sell it as, but you can even go around to your local jewelers if you wanted. Actually, quite a few of them will buy gold from you, and or go down to Hatton Garden. But online, there are a lot of companies. It's a question of who will give you the best deal, frankly. And then, of course, when it comes to digital gold, that you just do that online. It takes you a few minutes. You'll just you buy, you sell, and easy peasy. With a same sort of thing with ETFs, as that's pretty liquid. And then again, it's as you would find with the stock market, it depends when you sell. Try and wait until the price is up rather than when it's gone down. It's the usual things with any stock market investment.
Sure. The other thing we're talking about online, obviously people are very aware of online scams. You hear and
Yes.
lots of newspapers talking about that. How can you spot the scams?
Well, it's a very good point because scammers are very clever. They're doing it all the time. They've got a lot of deep pockets. They've got a lot of money to do these things. And so it can be quite difficult for individuals to know, which is why I mentioned companies like the Royal Mint. Now, there again, it's quite possible that some scammer will copy the Royal Mint's colours and font and everything like that, send you an email going, hey, it's a Royal Mint here. We've got a special deal on blah, blah, blah. And I think nowadays, boringly, you have to assume that everybody's after your money. You have to
Right.
assume everything is a scam. I mean, that's not how I lived my life and have lived I find it much easier and pleasanter to assume that people on the whole mean the best. But online now, I assume it's a scam first, and I need to check. So if you get an email from nowhere, um, I would, maybe read it and then go separately to the website it's mentioning, and also look at reviews. And if you're at all not sure, just don't do it. And particularly if it says, "Oh, you've got to get in now. There isn't much time. You've got to do it now." You have to sort of take a big deep breath, check yourself, and go, "It's okay.
Yes.
It'll come another time," because that's one of the ways in which scammers try to get your money off you.
Oh, it's always about that emergency thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Press the button now, otherwise you're going to lose out that the
Yes.
FOMO, a sort of fear of missing out,
Exactly.
is exactly sort
Yes.
of. So let's talk about the price then of gold. And what does the price of gold signify in today's economy?
Well, Gold is one of the main stores of value. It's where people go when they're worried. And the interesting thing at the moment I find is the sort of geopolitical aspect of gold and the gold price. And I must say, I do think, and I have a few friends who think this the same, that the gold price is being artificially held down. I think it should actually be worth a lot more than it currently is. And one of the reasons I say this is because you have a lot of countries that are repatriating their gold. A lot of countries had gold stored with the United States in particular, and you've got countries like China, Russia, Middle Eastern countries. They're all taking back their gold. And there are central banks, particularly, as I say, the Chinese central bank. I mean, Middle East has always been into gold, very, very much. Asians, I mean, India is very much in, they've been repatriating their gold. And all these central banks, and even the Western central banks, are buying a lot of gold. So from that point of view, just the geopolitical aspect of it, it makes sense to me that the gold price should be even higher because it's not just individual investors like you and me, like anybody watching this. You're talking people with huge, very deep pockets that are buying huge amounts of gold right now. And what we're also hearing about is countries and groups of countries looking into creating their own currencies or a new currency, a currency to replace the dollar. And many of these are gold backed or would be gold backed. A lot of it's talk at the moment. It's, we're still, scrabbling around looking for a credible alternative to the dollar. But gold is very much a part of many of these discussions. So this again says to me that the future is golden, for gold.
Right. I love the idea of people who invested a lot of gold having the most enormous biscuit tins. I think that is that's a principle.
Yes.
Just look there, but then underneath the bourbons, you work on that sort of
Yes.
basis. So, so tell me then. I mean, how does the price then reflect those global economic conditions?
Well, as I say, in a sense, it doesn't because given that so many banks and whole countries are buying more gold, it should, I would have said, be more valuable than it is, quite a lot more valuable. I mean, I've got one friend who says I mean, currently the price of gold is a little bit over $2,000 if we look at it in dollars. He says it should be $20,000. I've heard somebody saying $100,000 per ounce. This is, or even up to 1 million. So it should be. But I think that even the fact that it has been going up and going up sort of quite steadily in the last few years shows that there is a sense of confusion and concern and worry about the global economy. And more individuals, institutions, and countries are going, right, we're going to put more into gold just in case. Because wasn't it JP Morgan who said that gold is money? So he said cash is credit. That's it. Cash is credit. Gold is money. And when everything falls apart, you want to go to something that you feel is solid. And I think that's the sense at the moment that there's something in the air. We are potentially facing a global recession, potentially a global financial collapse even. I mean, I feel bad even saying this, but that is honestly what a lot of people are thinking. So they're immediately thinking, what's solid? Gold, maybe property, some people are saying, but not cash, not fiat money, not savings accounts, not the stock market on the whole. Let's go to something that we can touch and feel and feel safe with.
So cash is no longer king, you would say.
Now, well, now that's an interesting one because, on the one hand, absolutely, cash is not king. That fiat currency is not king when compared to gold. However, cash is king is something that I have been saying quite a lot recently because even though I am an absolute metropolitan, I live in central London, have done for years, and I used to just go out with my phone and keys and maybe a credit card or just my phone and keys. Now I'm going out with a bunch of cash because I am very concerned by the increasing digitization of everything, the increasing surveillance, the data mining of everything we do. And every time you use your credit card or your phone to buy something, it is tracked. And the great thing about cash is they can't track it. Not only can they, whoever they are, not track it, but also it's a great backup, and we all know, digital systems, they go down. That's what they do. And I've certainly had experiences where I couldn't buy something in a shop because suddenly their systems went down. I didn't have any cash. And so now I make sure that I take cash, and I argue with shops and restaurants that don't take cash. And I have quite a few friends who won't go, and I'm trying to be like this. It's a bit difficult in London, but who won't go into places that don't accept cash because they're so pro cash and
Right.
pro freedom as I am.
No, and you're absolutely right. It's a real concern, isn't it? And you have things like the IT outage, which took down
Yes.
airlines, took down broadcasters, and so on and so forth. They were all dependent on digital currency. There's a
Yes.
real risk there, isn't there?
Well, there really is. And just a few days ago, in fact, I did a little TikTok thing about this guy who in the Victoria area in central London, he has a pub, and he did a little video pointing out that the pub opposite, or the bar opposite him, was closed because they only take digital, they only take credit cards, and their whole systems were down. Everybody's system of this. And he said, "Look at my pub; it's completely full because I take cash." And
Hey.
it should be obvious, shouldn't it? You need a backup. We always need a backup.
Yeah. So, is there an I'm talking about cash being king, and as you say, we've got to avoid the digitalization of absolutely everything. Even though
Yeah.
I speak around the world as a futurist, saying that that is the future, but we want things side by side. We have to have the sort of safeguards, don't we?
Yes.
Um, the reality is, though, trying if you go into your pub and say, "Here's my bit of gold," they're not going to take it, are they?
No, they're not, absolutely. So, yeah, mind you, I say no, they probably would. If they got any sense, they would. But yeah, they'd have to know, they'd have to understand what it is that you're giving them. But that's, again, those of us who are sort of a little bit nervous about what's happening with the world economy and thinking, something's going to happen at some point. I don't know when, but something's going to happen. We're also having silver coins, so small denomination silver coins. Those are easier to spend because they're worth less, and so you could potentially go and do your shopping. If everything goes pear-shaped, you could do your shopping with a small silver coin. Silver is an interesting one actually because it's much more volatile than gold. And again, I think it is very much somehow being held down. I think the value is far lower than it should be. Platinum is another interesting one. That goes up and down. Gold, I would say, is much more stable. That's sort of gradually going up. But if you look at the silver and platinum charts, they're quite quite a lot more volatile, but interesting nonetheless, and worth considering as well if you are thinking where to put your money for the long term and the
Yeah.
medium term.
Well, let's have a look at those future outlooks then. I mean, for gold. I mean, it's have there been massive collapses in history of gold, and what do you think the future's going to hold?
Well, there haven't really. And the interesting thing about gold, and this is something that gold bugs often talk about, is that if you look at how much you could buy in gold in Roman times, um, you can pretty much buy the same in gold now. And certainly, if you look at property, for example, a couple of hundred years ago, you buy a house for a little bag of gold, and it's the same now. You can still buy a house for a little bag of gold because gold has gone up enough to actually cover basically inflation. And this is what everybody always says about gold, that it's a hedge against inflation. So whereas it's now hundreds of thousands of pounds fiat currency to buy a house, in gold it's actually not so bad, particularly if you look at it from the last 50, 100 years. So that's the quite fascinating aspect of gold. If you look at it in history, it has literally has kept its value if you compare it to what you can buy on a day-to-day basis, from clothes and food through to an actual place to live.
Yeah. You mentioned, I mean, fascinating. People talk about silver and platinum as well as gold. Given the choice, which of those would you pick?
Well, yes, I've invested in both, but I would say I've invested more in silver, because it ha again it has more uses, and I would invest in actual physical silver coins and also online silver. I think it has so many uses, and that's particularly that's another thing really about silver, particularly is it has industrial uses. And increasingly, it's being needed for industrial things, for digital products. And so that's an interesting area. Platinum too, but silver in particular, I think, has more industrial and sort of social uses than platinum does. So that's where I personally would put more investment. Yeah.
Okay. And are there any alternative assets that investors should consider alongside gold, platinum, and silver?
Well, I'm a fan, as I say, of cryptocurrency, and I think probably Bitcoin on its own, to be frank, I wouldn't bother with any of the other crypto. There are a few that are interesting, but if you're going to do an alternative, I would say gold and Bitcoin. It's a constant argument between Bitcoin maximalists and gold bugs, as to which is the most useful, which is going to go further. There are arguments on both sides. But if you've got a bit of extra cash and you're thinking, I'm wondering about the economy, I'm wondering about the world economy, about currency particularly, it's not a bad idea to have a small amount in Bitcoin as well, unless you think it's absolute nonsense. If you think, and I've got friends who go, oh, it's just a load of nonsense, just a load of hot air. Fine, all right, don't do it. But if you're sort of wondering, I personally would have a certain amount, not a massive amount, but a certain amount in Bitcoin. So you've got one foot in gold and the money metals, and one foot in crypto, and that kind of should cover you, if all goes pear-shaped.
Okay. And I always, as I say, like to unpack the jargon here. Everybody's spoken about Bitcoin, and we always assume that people have got in-depth knowledge. But in a simple sort of idiot's guide, if you like, or a beginner's guide to Bitcoin, talk us through what is a Bitcoin? How does it work?
Well, yes, it works on what's called a blockchain. So it's a decentralized way of having a coinage, if you like. There's no such thing as an actual Bitcoin. It doesn't exist. It's entirely digital. So whereas with fiat currencies, you have a central bank or a central government that says, this is a pound and you've spent that pound there, and it sort of says, right, we're doing, everything goes through essentially, that sort of process. With Bitcoin, it's all the transactions are on loads and loads of computers all around the world. There's no central authority that says that's happened there. It's all on these different computers, every transaction. And really Bitcoin is it's about really about the transactions rather than about an actual physical or even digital thing, actually. So it's about spending and earning these different amounts of money, as we call it, as you transact. So it exists and it doesn't exist. It's
Well,
I
that's
haven't really got
reassuring for people.
it's, isn't it? Very reassuring. That's not a terribly helpful way of putting it. But it is, again, what I say to those people who are against Bitcoin and they say, oh, it's just a store of value, you can't use it. And I go, no, people are using it. They really are using it already. I mean, people have bought whole houses with Bitcoin. I know somebody who gets paid in Bitcoin, and she always asks to be paid in Bitcoin. She has bought flowers in South Africa using Bitcoin.
Right.
It is a way that you can do it. It's a bit clunky, it's a bit slow, but you can actually use it as a way to spend and earn money.
And there are so many different Bitcoins and so many celebrities start doing their own versions. How does that work?
Well, yes, these are different cryptocurrencies. So Bitcoin is one of the cryptocurrencies. It's the main one. It's the one that's worth more than any of the others. But there are literally thousands of other cryptocurrencies, and some of them, as I mentioned, are worth considering. There's one called Ether, which is used quite a lot by developers, IT developers. And there are what are called stable coins, which are actually tethered. They're connected to the dollar, so they're worth considering as well. And there are one or two others that do interesting things. There's one called XRP that's quite interesting. That's got a lot of followers. But then you've got what they call meme coins, which are just nothings. They're barely even tokens. These jokey things that I mean, for example, Dogecoin is probably the most popular one, which was set up by Elon Musk. It's a dog. It's a picture of a dog, and it's it's like top trumps almost, and yet it's gone up incredible amounts of money. It's
Yeah.
worth, and then it just completely drops. And there's nothing behind these, nothing at all. As I say, it's like top trumps, and you go, oh, £20,000 per top trumps. You're like, for goodness sake, So there's a lot of stupidity, and so you're best off ignoring that. If you are interested, I would say just stick with Bitcoin to start off
Okay.
with.
And why are those so volatile? Because as you say, gold and silver and platinum, you've got something physical and it tends to maintain its value, and over a period of time it will go up, is what you're saying. But why are the cryptocurrencies so volatile?
Well, money generally is metaphysical, I think. And I include gold in this, really. Money is worth what we all agree that it's worth, really, and particularly with fiat currencies, where you've got the government saying this is worth this, and we all go, oh, all right, then, yeah, we'll accept that. And so cryptocurrency, like any form of money, is worth what enough people believe it to be worth, essentially. And as I say, it's the same with fiat currencies. It's the same with pounds and coins. If enough of us came to the point where we thought, actually, it's not worth anything, then pounds and pence wouldn't be worth anything. So with cryptocurrency, to start off with, it's only been going for about, what, 12 years, 14 years, something like that. So for quite a while, it wasn't worth anything at all. There's a story about somebody who bought a pizza with I think it was several Bitcoin, which would be
Right.
millions and millions of dollars worth now, for a pizza. But gradually, I think quite a lot of people got the idea. Gradually, it's dawning on people that fiat currencies are a bit dodgy, frankly, particularly with all of these being printed. So there have been people looking for an alternative, and particularly those who are working in the digital space, they've got interested in it. So where you had more and more people thinking, oh, actually, that could be a good store of value. Oh, yeah, I can see there's a use case there. Right, okay. So more and more people started to say, oh, I think this might be worth something. So it starts to be. But then, it's a new thing, and you get loads of people going, oh, I don't think it's worth anything at all. No, that's dodgy. There's nothing behind it. We don't believe in it. So the interest in it goes down. And then a bunch of other people go, oh, well, actually, no, I think it is worth something. And fiat currency starts to wobble quite a lot. And we suddenly see that there's been way more printing than we thought there'd been. So people start going, oh, cryptocurrency. So I think it goes up and down. And what I've also noticed, and I don't know why this is, but the value of Bitcoin in particular, and it tends to be, all the cryptocurrencies go up and down with Bitcoin, has been connected to the stock market as well. And there doesn't seem to be a good reason for that. You would expect that when the stock market is down, people would rush into Bitcoin, but for some way, there seems to be a load of people, and it's probably traders and whatever, who, when they're feeling confident in the stock market, they're also feeling confident in Bitcoin, and they put a load of money in. And then, the opposite happens when they lose their confidence in the markets.
Right. So finally, I mean, gold itself and other precious metals, say silver in particular, you'd consider them a safe haven rather than a speculative investment. Is that a fair summary?
I would, yes. I mean, nothing is safe as houses. Even houses are not safe as houses. So I never suggest anybody should put all of their money into anything. Always diversify. Always spread your bets. When they say diversify your portfolio, they mean spread your bets.
Right.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Okay.
But I do think that everybody's portfolio, the collection of investments, should include a bit of gold and possibly a bit of silver as a hedge against inflation and a hedge against an economic collapse, to be frank.
Okay. And finally, thank you very much, Jasmine. Always a pleasure having you on the show. Tell us how we can find out a bit more about you.
Well, thank you so much. I run a website called moneymagpie.com, so do check that out. You can follow me on TikTok at Jasmine Birtles and on Instagram at Jasmine Birtles. On Twitter, I am Jasmine. Get me, just Jasmine. I joined in
Jazza, come on.
2006. Yes,
You and Riri and J-Lo and just
yes,
Jasmine. Well done.
Jasmine. That's it. I joined in 2006 only because a friend of mine, techie friend, said, "Oh, you should join." I looked at it, thought, "Well, that's silly," but I joined it anyway. So now I have Jasmine as my handle.
Fantastic. Well, we talked about gold and silver and platinum. Is Jasmine a good investment?
Oh, marvelous investment. Absolutely marvelous. Everybody should invest in Jasmine big time. Yes, just send me the money. No problem. I'll accept it.
Fantastic stuff. Jasmine, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.
So thank you very much to Jasmine Birtles. She'll be back with us. Don't forget, if you've got any questions that you want answered on financial matters or anything else, we're trying to cover it all here on the Andrew Eborn Show. But for me, for now, thanks for joining us. We will see you next time.